Welcome, welcome, and bienvenidos. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I am so excited. So welcome to Tech and Tequila, the podcast where cutting-edge technology meets smooth conversation, just like your favorite adult beverage. So I'm your host, Kat Lopez-Shelby, founder and CEO of Shelby Technology Solutions, also known as your Techie Chica. I'm ready to guide you through the latest in tech innovation, industry insights, and behind-the-scenes stories from the digital world. Each week, we'll explore the fascinating intersection of technology and business, all while sometimes enjoying a great glass of tequila. So sit back and relax. Let's dive into the world of technology with a twist of lime, a splash of knowledge. Cheers to another episode of Tech and Tequila. And I'm so excited today because I have a special guest with me, Dr. Jenna W. Clack. Hi.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
So I am so pumped, and I know you, and I've known you for several years now. But for the rest of the listeners, why don't you tell us, number one, where you're at right now, and B, number two, give us some more information about yourself so they know why you're here, what's going on.
Awesome. Currently, I'm in San Jose, Costa Rica. My main everything is using the science that's connected with our spirit to live a very functional life. Each of us has a completely unique matrix of ourselves and our interconnections. And so I started as a hormone expert and did a lot of lifestyle consulting to connect all of the support systems of our biology with the chemistry of being alive and that kind of intertwinement of our community and the way that we interact in our lives to bring about well-being, which is really enjoying our lives. So I'm enjoying my life here. I have 3 wonderful children, a beautiful husband. I enjoy all of my friendships, relationships, and being able to contribute and being able to travel and be able to move around and still have the relationships developed to be able to do this work. So there's a little rundown.
No, awesome. And thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule with travel and everything to get on the podcast today. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, what is your personal favorite tequila drink that you're enjoying right now?
I'm going to tell you, I don't like tequila. It's like I've tried so hard, but so there's something that I think that maybe is a Paloma. Is that something? Does that have tequila in it?
It does. A Paloma usually has tequila in it.
I would choose that. It's a little early here for me, but next time I'll bring my tequila.
It sounds perfect. Well, since here in the United States, it is Black History Month, I would be remiss without talking about Lobos Tequila, because in case you didn't know, they are a Black-owned tequila brand. So been trying them out. We're going to try some reposado this evening, and we'll get to enjoy it.
What's the name?
I'm Lobos. Yes. So,
well, when someone asks me, because inevitably that's such a popular question, everyone wants to sip tequila. And so at least I'll know the direction to go.
I know. It becomes quite a thing. I didn't realize there was so much to tequila until I started learning more about circular tequila, which I knew the distributor in the Permian Basin, and just the difference between Blanco and Reposado and like the whole thing, and and exactly how it's made.
It's a cultura of its own, right?
Mm-hmm. It really is. It's a culture of its own. It definitely is. Absolutely. So yes. Well, you talked about several things. So I think it would be remiss if we didn't talk more about what exactly you do. But when you go and someone starts working with you, because I'm somebody who really fully believes, I love business, I love technology, but we're like a whole person. So if as a person we're off or something's not, whether it be health or anything like that, it affects so much of what we do. And that's why I wanted to have you here today, and why I wanted, more people to kind of hear about this like holistic view of a person and just kind of the whole thing. I know you have your your different programs, but before I just keep rambling, let me let you talk, because
I'm so excited. And honestly, Kat, what it is how I actually know you, how we grew to know each other over having lunch once a week for how many years. And so what I do when someone works with me is more of an applied and analytical, individualized look at wellness. And I believe that's what, to me, I feel grateful for you as a consultant in that way, and being able to specify exactly all of the things I don't know about for my benefit, right? So for me, it's looking at the communications between your brain and your body, which are your hormones. So I'm really big into just understanding where your biology is so you can utilize that to your benefit and find balance in whatever way it turns out is best for you. So we can do micronutrient testing, we can do methylation testing, which is functional medicine testing, to allow us to really understand the inner workings of your biology and then support the wellness that you deserve and desire. Instead of looking for the bugs, we're just going to put up the firewall appropriately. And I hope I'm even close on that. But basically, what's beautiful about having that information and then over time in consulting with people is what you said is so true. Everything about your life ties in together to bring about your whole experience, right? So I think that just taking the time to learn more about yourself and then have applied knowledge that is more background, scientific, quantum. I've been interested in how we live and how to best live, really feel alive and excited and passionate about life. That's the well-being that I see. And since I was in 6th grade, I remember reading the health book and then watching what people were doing. And I was like, it's not. And then getting more and more into the science from that, I didn't plan to go to pharmacy school. That was not what I had planned to do. But when I started discovering biological inner workings and realizing how important it is for the true molecule, for the least modified molecule, the most natural molecule or bioidentical molecule to be represented, it lit my whole world into this lamp that I needed to carry around and say, do you know that the reason that you might be feeling certain ways are attached to patterns that are happening within your body that are meant to keep things efficient? But when they're thrown off path, it can cause you not only to feel differently, which to me, I feel like that is the the primary way we're talking to ourselves. But there is a super scientific and a delicate and interwoven way that's actually happening within ourselves. And when we're around other people and in community and in culture and what we intake, and finding a support for that instead of finding something to pull apart from that is really what I have over the years found to be in hormonal support, in neurological support, and neurohormonal patterning for your nutritional support. It doesn't have to be any one big plan, because you're not usually, as a person, and especially as women, and then any minorities of women especially, we have this divide in the scientific available research for what we can do. However, there are patterns. And so my expertise is I'm a super nerd. I've always, since that time, I love organic chemistry. I love the way that we detoxify. I love the way that we regenerate. And so finding those patterns and then applying them in a way where you don't have to know all of that stuff. And I'm also not of the mind of this one thing works for everyone because one thing said it. It's like combining the information, taking information from everywhere, and then really I will end up loving you, right? So you'll talk to me and tell me what's going on. And there's no way that I'm not going to see a beautiful human being that deserves support. That's the way that the intention carries through. And so whatever it is that you're looking for, there's everything from a consultation just to get started, and find out if there's something that we can dive into. If a lot of chronic issues or pattern diagnosis issues, anywhere from mental to physical to organ systems, a lot of times those, because they're so patterned, don't get an individualized look with all of the intertwinement that I'm talking about. So where I stand is really when someone wants to be heard, really listened to, and not passed over, even if you're trying to pass yourself over. I won't do that. I will shock you into a realization, and we will be able to always be in a regenerative mode, always making functional decisions that also feel super aligned with our spirit. And I think there's a big connection there in if it's not aligned with spirit, if you're not feeling alive and excited and passionate about whatever it is, if you're feeling shamed or cornered or frightened into whatever change or adjustment that you're making. And I think this is in every world, right? Mm-hmm. That it doesn't give you the full benefit. And scientifically, that's true. Even if it were to give you every benefit theoretically that it could down those lines, if it's not something that actually aligns with you, and this is where I feel epigenetics come in, which is above genetics and how we interact. Oh, you smile because you know how much I love it. It's like, seriously, it's so beautiful that what we are lit up by lights up our cellular interactions, and finding a way to use that functionally is my thing. That's what I like to do. I like to allow people to feel really excited and passionate about life every day that they wake up. And finding the best way for them to do that is that communication that we have, and integrating not just all of this scientific knowledge I have, but then the last 5-ish years that I have been traveling with my family and integrating into the rainforest and all different environments and picking up on different healing modalities as the consultations are continuing to happen and we're continuing to have that education. I feel like I almost breeze over the fact that I'm nomadic at this point, or non-localized, whatever you want to call it. And I feel so blessed to be able to live a lifestyle that aligns, where when I'm saying all of these things, that it has to be aligned with you and it's a whole thing. I really believe you cannot heal in the same environment that got you sick. I really believe that. And so some changes, whether those are energetic, or for me, it ended up throwing me into this whole unplanned adventure. It's a beautiful thing to be able to be adaptable, and then to have someone who you can trust, who is not, the best as I can say, who is not super sponsored by lots of, other, it's nice to have an autonomous look at your whole self and have an additional perspective. I think that's the thing. It's like looking from another angle is allowing us to discover more about what makes us whole.
No, that is so much to unpack, So I was sitting here taking notes to make sure that I covered some things.
Thank you.
But I wanted to break it down, because we did touch on the fact, one of the things you talked on is having a nomadic lifestyle, and kind of what you were talking about, you necessarily can't heal in the same place that all of this transpired. Maybe you need to grow, there's room. And I think we saw this transition a lot over the I hate to say the dreaded COVID, over whatever you want to call it, that whole thing that happened, but it was a change. Like, people who maybe lived in the city were like, we're not deemed, we don't have to stay here anymore, so let's go over here. And people who were, per se, in a spot they weren't so happy with, they were like, let's go over here. So when you see that, and when you look at that, where do you see things that kind of commonly come up in your practice that you make recommendations about, or you give people thoughts about? I mean, what kind of discussions do you have, and where do you look at that?
Well, funny enough, probably mid 2019, I think I talked to you about setting everything up online. And I just felt that this was already the wave of the future, because there's no need for us to be inconveniencing our lifestyle. So for me, when I'm talking with someone in a consultation, I would notice all of these inconveniences in the lifestyle that we just have to continue. And it was actually before this whole thing happened and totally vindicated all of my thoughts, which was crazy. And thank goodness, I'm not saying I'm a visionary, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it really was in 2019. And and you were able to across the country. And I think that's where it was super helpful on this end to have someone I trusted to look into all of these different companies that connect with all of these different wavelengths and all of these different contracts to be able to say, how can we do this in a way that's safe for patients, in a way that's reliable as it can be in the jungles of Costa Rica back and forth? How can we, put this together? And your expertise is just, that allows it to be there. So then on the wellness side of it, I'm actually able to, I really do believe you cannot provide something you don't have. I really do believe you cannot provide something you don't have. And to be able to provide the level of well-being and wellness and alignment that I want to provide, I needed to be living a life that reflected that. And so what I would tell clients, what I would tell myself, and that's how it works, right, is to not look at the closed box of what is, because looking into that to begin with, and ended up switching completely the way that I was doing it after that because of the big shutdowns and everything that moved forward. We're able to be adaptable with every big change that came through, and having that individualized plan really allowed us to be adaptable instead of, kind of getting the stuck in the, like, you hear the news story and everyone goes down together on this, or everyone goes up and then down together on this. It doesn't have to be that. You can find an adaptation. And I feel like that's how lifestyle is too. So maybe you don't move every day the same way someone else does. I went to get my eyebrows done, and the lady at the place, I was at filling out my form, and it said, like, are you athletic? Do you play sports? And I said, no, because no, right? And she, hearts and kisses. She was like, no, I see you walking every day. And I was like, oh, I'm walking to get food. Like, I'm walking up the hill, but I'm doing my movement a different way. And so I'm adapting to where I am for how I'm going to incorporate my wellness. So being able to adapt our lifestyle, being able to change our environment, to be able to live in an environment that feels culturally supportive, that feels a community of support. And it's going to be different for every single person, right? So it's different for each individual, like, support system in your biological community. And so that's everything that's around you. So having the ability to plan your day a little bit, technology allows us to connect, like, voice message back and forth all day when you have time, secure little videos, lab reviews where you can see it on the screen. I can see you on the screen. We can go over things, highlight things back and forth. You have a question later. I have a program where it's unlimited emails back and forth after a consultation. There are, add-on 30 minutes, 60 minutes, ask me to explain something, go over something. The freedom that gives you for your wellness through technology, like, it's exactly what has been needed to build an authentic, connected, intentional relationship. And that plays in more than, that is wellness. That is well-being when you have that type of a connection. So I think it's actually quite beautiful that I would tell people to use their technology as a tool and be adaptable in their lifestyle. That's what I think is, I'm doing that, and it feels like it's a good little overhead tip.
No, and I think you pointed that out. I like to think of it in essence when I hear you talk about, being nomadic and adaptability and personalized. Like there's not just, okay, we're not going to take this, like, round peg and square hole until, like, it somewhat fits, or it'll keep whatever is together. And I think that my philosophy with when we do tech consulting is very similar to, your philosophy about individualization of, and I don't want to say a treatment plan, but individualization of getting from point A to point B, in the essence of, I need to look at you as a whole person versus
I wouldn't even say even more than that, because I would say you do more than that too, is like for infinite expansion, like a foundation. Does that, like, that's what I feel like is so good, that when you have somebody that cares about you like this and individualizes it to you, then that foundation is really stable and you can add on, like continuing to add on. And I will say you have a big skill for, like, getting it done. Like,
Mhm.
So I hear that too.
No, I love that. I would be remiss if I didn't point out one of the things that you talked about, and that was community and the importance of your community. When you interact with someone, when you're working with someone, what are like recommendations that you make? What are things that you look at? Kind of touch base on that because I really
Okay,
wanted to
totally.
get some more information.
Totally. It depends on what we're doing. So like if it's a consultation, it'll be what you bring to me. That's what it
Mhm.
is. But functional spirit science is my heart and soul. It's a class I've been selling and teaching for, I guess, around 3 to 4 years now. And what this does is it looks at your values and your theory around life, living, and your own well being, which you hope to get out of it. We start with your values. And then we also look at the biological markers at the same time. There's 12 classes. So you get a class that's like a 20-minute class each week. And then there's also 6 consultations, which are 90 minutes each. And there is a test of your choice, which can be your hormone test, your micronutrient test, or an ALA test. So it's a food sensitivity test. And depending on what we decide is best for you after you have seen those videos and had a consultation, then you'll get that test. And we'll review the results and decide on what aligns with your values and your goals for wellness. So how can we put those together? And the reason we do 90-minute consultations is because we are really building a relationship of intention. And you will learn about that in a class of how important it is to have someone who really is intentionally advocating for and intentionally supporting on an energetic level you individually while you're moving through this process. That is the magic behind functional spirit science. It's the main molecule that I have been studying as far as community is oxytocin, and its true intentional energetic exchange has a bigger effect on well-being. There are lots of studies that we've used different words for those things on, but it is across the board. One of the most beneficial things you can do is to have someone have that intention with you. And then I like to think that all of the knowledge that I bring behind that for your hormone, for your hormone readings, your micronutrients, making sure that you have all the correct support. And if there's any inflammatory effects, we can move from there and decide, is it a natural supplementation? Is it a change in your routine? Is it something that we are doing in a meditative state? We also look at your persona type. So how you look at things, tie that in with your values so that it's actually practical. When I'm giving you your rundown per se, when I'm giving you the recommendation, we are allowing all of these things to be tied into a true lifestyle plan. Supplementations, what you're going to be shifting for yourself, whatever comes up in that, will all be tied into what value you have, what's important to you, and your hormone results, your micronutrient results, your sensitivity results. And we have a really clear plan of how to move forward. And there's that contact in between. So if there's any questions, you've got a support system. You've got someone here to walk and talk through, and we're able to really align you into the lifestyle. Because if you don't have wellness and you're feeling groggy and you're feeling sleepy and tired and frustrated and you have moods and you are not able to feel energetic and excited and alive, then it's difficult to contribute fully to your purpose. It's difficult to be able to show up as yourself, for yourself, and everything else that you're doing. And it can feel like a struggle, like it's not worth it, right? And so allowing yourself to know you better and really have the attention you deserve, really have the attention that you deserve for your individual self, that community is in itself the important thing. You'll see what type of feelings you want to have in your life, and that will be connected to the biological benefits. And for some reason, when we connect it to like, oh, I'm going to live longer, like, oh, anti-aging medicine can add like 26 years of active life to my life. If you want to live it, that can be really, really exciting. So having the community that supports that and the intention is an additional scientific step. And it's also pretty obvious that that allows for your view of you and your community to shift, for you to see yourself differently, and for you to be able to start walking into that life of being excited and energetic and passionate about everything.
No, I could not agree more with you on that right there. So much of what you talked about, so much of what you were talking about covers the thought process that goes into so many things. And that's, especially in business. So I'm going to take this little outside of the realm that you're talking about. But when you're in business, is how do you build your community? How do you build your network? How do you, what does that look like? And I think when you talked about taking as an individualistic approach, that's so important. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, that's really what you do. And that's awesome and amazing. There's something that I wanted to touch on, and it's kind of going to take us a little left of what we've been talking about. But I think that when you were talking, we're going to kind of take it back for a second to the nomadic lifestyle, and how, in a way, your technology has helped you be able to continue on that. Because, you're talking about, like, I'm working with clients over here, and, I want to have these and make sure that we're staying compliant, we're staying, everything's staying legit. We have end-to-end encryption, and going through all that. What are things that you see, and I guess this is kind of that you see, that are super important for yourself as you're living this lifestyle, to make sure that you cover, that your tech does for you? And I would be remiss not to talk about, I see you on TikTok on a regular basis. So, that you do, that helps fulfill that, like, community lifestyle and everything just in general. So
this makes me happy. You're exposing me, Kat. You're exposing me. I am all about authenticity. So I truly love the tech connection. I think that feeling like a freedom and a truth in the medium is really fun. And I feel like there's also that place to separate through the business. So I really do run the business out of the business website. And all of the connections there. So for me, what's really important, I was actually on a call the other day where I realized that my dreams as a little girl were like, oh my gosh, I'm cosmopolitan. I have a client in Thailand. I have a client in China. I have a client a couple in Costa Rica, a few in Texas. Like, so it's nice to have a different system for all of the encryption and the data and the storage, and that all being kind of in its own spot. And that feels really good to me. It's an individualized situation, of course. That feels really good to me. And then, yes, I actually am about to start, if anyone wants to check out the Instagram, not only I have Dr. JW1, I'm a Dr. Quantum Limitless, I have this whole persona for Instagram, in addition to the Visionary Intuitive Productions Instagram. And TikTok has always been this kind of just like fun thing that I do. And now it's been a little bit more regular and fun for me. It really is an authentic communication. I think that technology seemed at the beginning like very, dial in, log up, security code, floppy disk. I remember all of that, so much fun stuff. And I think that what it has evolved into is, like I say, where's my matrix computer? Like it's to this point where it's an accessibility and communication that we could have never imagined. It was not that long ago when we had a house phone, we had to be home when we got a call, right? So I feel like what technology has allowed me to do, not only in being able to, in my case, now be able to move around and be non-localized and be in the places that feel best at the time. But I say that really strongly because Austin got cold early and I left. I was supposed to like January, but
yeah, you were like, I am not made for this cold weather. I'm out. But
no, there's actually a really good TikTok I should do where it's like, no, I might die. Like I'm not okay with cold weather. And there's a point in my life where I realized I didn't have to do it, and that was it. So yeah, it's really nice to be able to interact and not lose community because you prefer a different environment, because you prefer a different cultural setup, because you prefer a different outside. So it's beautiful to be able to be always home and decide when you open your door. Mm-hmm. And so I think the beautiful thing for technology and adaptability on this end is the ability to really still have a separate business persona and personal life. And they're all attached, which I think is awesome for integrity, because I think everyone should dig into who's the who, where's the where, follow it everywhere for everything, because it's interesting. Number one, it's interesting. And number two, it really does make that connection of what I do think technology is doing for us is allowing a truth in communication because of its accessibility at this point. And the specialization then is going to be completely up to how you utilize the information. So kind of like how you would look at a lab test, that's only one part of it. So tech review is only right now what we're looking at for what's going on, right? So now what do I do with that information? How do I utilize the information to take me to the next level to expand? Okay, now we look at that again. It's going to be completely different. We're in a new space time. We get to continue to expand and improve. And so I feel like that's what technology definitely does. We're technology. Humans are some of the coolest technology, right? So it's really the same thing at this point.
No, I mean, that touched on so many things that, I absolutely love about the day and age that we're in. And I mean, just the fact that we're sitting here recording a podcast from two, different countries, and we're on here, we're able to connect. And, there's so many things that tech does for us that helps to build that community that you were talking about. I mean, we always take, excuse me, the good with the bad, but I still think there's more good out there that outweighs it. And I think, that's the biggest thing. One of the things that you talked about was being super aligned and, looking at somebody, I mean, I'm going to keep repeating it as like a whole person versus like, okay, this is, you have this chronic situation. We're going to, per se, treat this. What do you see is most common why people reach out and are like, hey, let me get in this program. Let me work with you. What are things that you see? So someone who may be listening and is listening to all this and is like, my mind is blown, but I'm not sure exactly what to do with this information.
What are the points, right? Well, I started with unsolvable cases, right? So if you had something that you've been working towards with your health for a really long time, a chronic condition, and you don't feel like you're ever going to be autonomous, and you feel like you're always going to be dependent and there's not a lot of hope there, that's how I started. So that is still something that's really close to my heart. If there's something that we feel like we can't untangle, I love to untangle. Now, what people come to me for, I would love to say there's a typical thing. I would love to say that. Hormonal issues present all different ways. Nutritional issues present all different ways. My last couple of clients. So issues with reproduction and wanting to, move forward with improving reproduction system, and that being a dream, a desire, and that connects to a lot of other things. Someone who had severe wrist pain that was keeping them up and not able to sleep. So looking into that's super fun. That's been really good. I'm like getting excited about the whole stories now. And in a lot of hormonal imbalance. So feeling really different anytime between, I would say 32 and 60, feeling really completely like something has shifted in your life, like you're not yourself. That's something that I see probably a lot. That's something that's not myself. I've got these other little issues that are kind of issues, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is I feel really disconnected. I feel like I don't have control of my own health and I don't know what advice to take. So there's a lot of just that direct thing. Of course, we have like gut issues. Gut issues are a big thing, like super popular, gut issues. And then also wanting to kind of come down from medications that are meant to alter our state of mind. So wanting to not continue on those and find alternative paths. That's sometimes something that I'm thinking is been one of the last couple. Really, I guess it really all relates to the discomfort that you're having, not being able to sleep, being really tired, feeling some sort of a fatigue. And a lot of times that'll be connected with a minor ache and pain that continues to worsen, or blood sugar issues, where we're looking towards prediabetes, we're looking into metabolic dysfunction, and we got some news that we're wanting to do something different with. Those are like trigger points that people will contact me about. Really, hormones is anything that's going wonky with you from like 32 to 60 is something that would probably be a common complaint. Little pains, little aches, chronic conditions. So I would love to say there's a typical, but even when I just tried to give you the last 5, I'm like, it's really pretty all different. And I mostly from referrals from people saying like, oh my gosh, she's able to look at your systems as a whole, because I think that's what it is. When I try to say like, what is it? And then I see you as such a whole that it's never directly related to what we're coming in as a problem, because it's not a problem, right? It's finding solutions, and the solutions don't have any precipitate, right? Like there's nothing left to be solving. So there's lots of patterns that you might come in with. And it's funny. I'm like, oh, I answered that incorrectly. But then I'm like, no, really, because what you said is true. I see you as such a whole person that usually what it is this is bothering you, and it's a web of connections within your biological system. And it's this over here that we just move a little bit and support, and we're able to unlock for you.
That's a lot to unwind, like when you think about it. Number one, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. I think you've covered so much information, even just a tad bit about your nomadic lifestyle and kind of like how tech has made that possible. That's so much information that you uncovered, and it's given a lot to think about. If there's 3 things that you really want, like some particular person that's listening to take away from this, that I would say maybe that's a change or something to think about, like, hey, there's something different, what would that be?
If you could feel better every day, feel aligned, like you're growing in yourself, would you embark on that journey to learn more? If you would, then reach out, look at Visionary Intuitive Productions, learn more about yourself and how you work within the world, and wake up excited and passionate and aligned. Your whole lifestyle, everything that you choose is your well-being, and it's all up to you.
I love it. That is perfect. That sums it up. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech, and maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.